So we gathered here today to dedicate the monument of Dr. Gregory M.A. Newman. Everyone on Zoom, please rise, and we will unveil together right now. Then we'll start. El Malay Rachamim, El Malay Rachamim, שוכן מרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה, על כנפי השכינה, במעלות הקדושים הטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת צבי, אברהם, משה, בר מרדכי, ובר מרדכי שהלך לעולמו, בעבור שנתנו צדקה בעד הזכרת נשמתו בגן עדן, תמנוחתו, לכן בעל הרחמים יסירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, וישרו בזרוע חיים את נשמתו, אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח על משכבו בשלום ונאמר אמן. May God bring comfort to Evelyn, Dr. Newman's family and friends. Whoever is on Zoom could be seated. I will share with you a tribute written by Dr. Newman's beloved wife, Evelyn. From a very early age, Dr. Gregory Newman knew he wanted to become a doctor. He arrived from Russia to St. John, Newfoundland in 1925 at the age of 2, and later moved to Corner Brook. Newfoundland became part of Canada in 1949. In pursuit of this goal, Greg was admitted to McGill University at age 16. Getting into McGill's was not an easy task in those days. That did not deter Greg and earned his Master of Science degree in 1943. After finishing his studies at McGill, Greg applied to Dalhousie University. By chance, his brother Alexander started a conversation with the men sitting next to him on the train. In their conversation, Alexander mentioned that his brother had applied to Dalhousie. It turned out that this man was the dean of Faculty of Medicine at Dalhousie. Greg received his acceptance letter shortly thereafter. Greg was the only Jewish student in all his classes at Dalhousie, where he earned degrees in surgery and internal medicine. He then passed the Royal College of Medicine certification exam, which allowed him to practice anywhere in Canada. When Greg was just 24, he detected that his brother Alexander, who suffered from severe headaches, had a brain tumor. Greg arranged for his brother to be operated immediately by a prominent surgeon at the Montreal Neurological Institute and Hospital. Unfortunately, Alexander died on the operating table at the age of 29. It fell to Greg to telegraph his parents to tell them the very sad news. Greg also did an internship at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston, where he worked in their emergency room. Greg opened his practice in Montreal in 1950. Over the years, he gained a reputation as a great internist and an accomplished diagnostician, which earned him the respect of his colleagues, who often referred their most difficult cases to Greg for diagnostic assessment. Money was never motivated Greg. He practiced as of his patients were his family. He always stayed true to his pledge to give the best of himself to medicine. He was a no-nonsense doctor and gave all his patients the best of care. Never rushed an appointment and was always available to answer his patients after hours calls. As for the Jewish General Hospital, where he was affiliated, Dr. Newman received many letters of commendation for his long years of service. In other words, Greg was a doctor's doctor and continued his practice into his mid-80s. I will now read a portion of Dr. Newman's own eulogy. To my wife, Evelyn, I made a promise to her mother and stepfather that I will always take care of her. As you are witnesses for some time, the roles have been reversed. I'm grateful that she always been there for me, and more so in my latest years as I needed help and support. I always loved her, but I have not expressed it often enough, and there is no doubt Evelyn is very bright. That innate quality will serve her well for the rest of her life. And through my life, I was blessed as well that my sister Sylvia and I enjoy an indisputable great relationship, and that my nephew Michael and nieces Sandra were always very important to me. I'm bidding you farewell and beg you to savor this memory with a smile unencumbered by sorrows. I request that these remarks be read by the most emotionally controlled member of the family, with agreement of niece, nephew, and Catherine. I wish to thank my colleagues for their participation in patient care. Signed by Gregory M.A. Newman, born July 22, 1923. And now Dr. Newman's nephew, Dr. Michael Epstein, will share a few words with us.
Okay, so I'm actually going to read some things that I've written down because I'm not very good at speaking off the cuff, so I apologize for reading. But to introduce myself, I'm Michael Epstein. I'm Greg's nephew from Vancouver, the son of Greg's beloved sister Sylvia. My wife Catherine and I had every intention to attend this important occasion in person, and we were looking forward to visiting the grave sites of my grandparents Max and Nina, or Nina Neiman, whichever way you choose to call her, and Uncle Alex, who I gather are just around the corner from here. But after much consideration, we felt that it was best not to take a long flight from Vancouver to Montreal with its inherent risks during this pandemic. My decision, in part, was based on reflecting on what Greg would have suggested had I asked his advice. By the way, Greg never suggested anything. He always was less subtle when it came to giving advice. With his medical knowledge, practicality, common sense, and logic, I knew that he would have absolutely told me not to come to his unveiling. Catherine and our 3 adult children who you see on the Zoom screen are very glad to be able to make it virtually. Evelyn has asked me to say a few words, and I'm honored to do so. There'll only be a few words. I thought the best way to do that was to summarize some of the descriptions that were given of Greg after his passing on the obituary site at Paperman's. Quote, wonderful, caring doctor, personal, thoughtful, kind, gentle, passionate about medicine. One of the most humorous stories that I heard about Greg and his practice of medicine came from Gino, who I knew as well. It was his barber and my barber whenever I came to Montreal for a visit. And he became Greg and Evelyn's friend for over 60 years. And this is his quote that was on the obituary site. I was Dr. Neiman's patient for 60 years. The first time I went to him, he put me on the scale. I was 160 pounds. The second time, 10 years later, I was 190 pounds. He asked me, "Did you grow any taller?" To me, Greg was a major part of my life in so many ways. He and Evelyn never had children together, and my sister Sandra and I were like his very own. I have so many fond memories of our visits to Montreal and Greg and Evelyn's visits with our family in Nova Scotia and in Florida. He was a true mentor to me, not only in my professional life, but in everything I do. I will conclude by stating a few things that come to mind describing Greg's enigma and paradox. He was serious, but funny. He was broad-minded, but with steadfast convictions. And he was not affectionate, but loving. For all of the above and much more, we will miss him, and we will carry his memories with us forever. Thank you.
And unlike Greg and Michael, I didn't use Gino as a hairdresser, and look how different our hairstyles were. Anyway, I'm Greg's niece, as Michael mentioned, and I'm also going to read a few notes. I'm Greg's niece, but to Greg, I was the daughter he didn't have. He treated both my brother and I with such an outpouring of love that any parent would have had for his or her own child. But with his patriarchal role as the revered and respected uncle-like dad, also came both solicited and unsolicited guidance and wisdom, some of which I welcomed at the time and other stuff I resisted. But now on reflection, I realize how much I learned from Greg and how wise he truly was. He really did leave an impact on me as a wise mentor and coach with an open mind, as long as I could argue a strong case for any opinion that I had that differed from his. And believe me, we had many different opinions over the years. He always thought I should be a lawyer, though I had to repeatedly remind him that I was happy with my choice in life. But at the end of the day, our happiness was all that he ever wanted for both Michael and I, and he continued to remind us of that throughout his life. As I mentioned in my eulogy at the funeral, and again, as Michael mentioned, Greg was a human paradox. He lived a simple life, but yet was fraught with so much complexity. He was a serious comic with so much wit, a short man with a tall personality. To quote Greg, he actually would say, "I'm not Tom Selleck." Anyway, and he was a social recluse who could charm anyone or schmooze anyone if he felt like it. He was truly a character to be remembered. You know, we're certainly living in very strange times now, and it would be so interesting to hear about Greg's perceptions of this pandemic and the new normal as we know it today. He probably would have loved masks, since he rarely smiled in his seriousness, and when he did smile, there was such an incredible glow. His smiles were really coveted. In fact, toward the end of his life, I have a memory, and I'll always cherish it. I was on a FaceTime with Greg and Evelyn, and it was just the most amazing memory. They were kissing, and the smile and the love in his eyes, it brings tears to my eyes. And I know I said it at the funeral, but I will always have that lasting memory. Sadly, during these times, it's really difficult for family connection and togetherness when we're all so far apart geographically. But I can only surmise that Greg would have wanted us to maintain our social distance and to focus on celebrating his life and all of the wonderful memories, exactly how we're doing it today on Zoom. Greg also had a very curious mind and was very interested in etymology and the meaning of words. Ironically, when I looked up the meaning for the word unveiling, I found it was synonymous with words like show, exhibit, publish, display, expose, flaunt, and these are just words that couldn't be further from who Greg was. But so glad that we can all be here today for the unveiling from far and wide. So as difficult as it is for our small family to be as geographically separated during this time, I can almost hear Greg's voice saying, that rather than dwell on the negative aspect of distancing, let's focus on the humor and the celebration of his life, a life truly lived. So Greg, please know that in true Greg fashion, we are celebrating you today and thanking you for all that you have taught us. We will remember your boundless humor, guiding principles and ethics and wisdom with much love always. May you be remembered for more than the 2 generations that you always said people are remembered by. All my love.
May God, may Hashem comfort Evelyn and the whole family from far today. Amen.
Toby, that was a wonderful performance. By the way, Toby Kimmelman, actually his grandfather is my husband's cousin. So Toby is also part of our family. Thanks, Toby.